Wingwag. I'm your host, Jack Olinde. I'm an instrument-rated pilot and the owner of an aviation company and flight school here in Central Florida.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not guaranteed to be accurate or complete. While we research each topic, we are humans and occasionally make mistakes. For the most up-to-date information on regulations, check out the official Federal Aviation Regulations, also known as the FARs, or consult an aviation attorney. Lastly, the opinions expressed on this podcast are the guest's opinions and are not necessarily the opinions of the host or podcast. Welcome to this week's episode. I'm here with my brother Matthew, who is a flight instructor, and he's a co-owner of Olinde Aerospace along with our other brother Hunter, which is a flight school centering on tailwheel flight training, as well as other aviation services. And we're here to talk about light sport aviation and how the new FAA MOSAIC ruling could change that for pilots and how, in particular, it's going to affect our flight school. So, Matthew, first thoughts on MOSAIC. What is it?
Yeah,
give us an overview.
I'm very excited for MOSAIC. It's I have had, so I've been flight instructing for 3 years now. I've had 4 students not be able to fly because they couldn't get their medical. So I'm very excited for it. I think light sport it's an interesting pathway to become a pilot that I don't think anyone thinks of. Like, to me, that's before someone like shows up and they're like, hey, I want to learn to fly. Like, I saw this light sport thing. I was like, just get your private pilot license. Mm-hmm. But now I think that's an actual conversation that needs to be had of like, what do you want to do? Because sport pilot is way easier, cheaper. It's easier on the business, whoever provides the airplane. It's easier on the student as well.
Well, that's interesting because I am not a commercial pilot. I am working on my commercial rating, but I probably will never work at an airline. And honestly, that could have been a route I would have gone down as just more of a recreational flyer. But I was not even aware of the sport pilot certificate until I had begun my PPL.
Yeah.
So
I think I've had one student approached me and asked about it. And I was like, we can do it if you want.
So have you had a student get a sport pilot certificate before?
No, I had one who started, but then he tried to buy, I forgot what he bought, but it was like an experimental plane, and then that kind of fell through. And then I think maybe that scared him away or something. But I really have not had anyone, but I expect within the year I'll probably have a few. Okay. Yeah. So I guess before we talk about MOSAIC, what is the difference between the two licenses, like the private pilot and the sport pilot license? What are the differences in responsibilities? What are you allowed to fly? What are you not allowed to fly? Yeah, so sport pilot it was made in 2004 as a way to fly without a medical. That was the whole thing. It was pretty restrictive, but it was a way you could fly without a medical, and it was more endorsement based than check ride based.
Okay.
Right? Like a private pilot, you do your check ride, and I tell my students, like, the day after your check ride, like, I'm kind of responsible, the DP is responsible. You could get in a plane, you Cherokee 6, fill up with 5 of your friends and fly to California, and you could just do that. Where the sport pilot it's like a bare bones license, right? You want to fly, you didn't have to do tower at airport stuff. That was an endorsement you would have to add on to your license. There's all this sorts, it's kind of like that. So yeah, it's kind of what the sport pilot was envisioned to be. But nowadays, obviously with this new rule, and I think the FAA has maybe seen that the U.S. is really, like, our airplane manufacturing. Look at Piper's old offerings, right? Like, so many cool planes, and now they just make, I think, a few for just flight schools. Yeah. And Cessna, same thing. So this is a new approach that I think is trying to spur general aviation while still maintaining, like, safety.
Mm-hmm. So, if I remember correctly, the way it was before the MOSAIC ruling was if you had your sport pilot certificate, you could fly day VFR. Like you said, no towered airports, no night flying. You also had to fly planes that were less than 1,320 pounds.
Yeah.
2 seats or less.
2 seats less.
And a single reciprocating engine.
Yeah.
Right? So now under MOSAIC.
Also, there was absolutely no commercial use. There's not a single exception.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But now, the big one's the weight. If they wanted to shift from weight-based to performance-based, there is not a single weight restriction.
Okay.
So, like, that does open open up the game a little bit. And then like the biggest one now, a lot of people talk about is the clean stall speed, 59, right? So that allows, 170, 172, even 182s. That allows some very big planes to be flown. And that's just a performance-based thing.
So you're saying that is the only thing. If your plane has a clean stall speed of 59 or less, can be flown.
That's not the only thing.
pilot.
Like, you hear a lot of people talk about that. That's kind of the main thing people are focusing on because it's performance-based. There are a few other things like there's no weight, but there is the clean stall speed one. And that one, I think the idea is that if you're not going to have a medical, they want to lower the amount of damage you could do.
Yeah,
does that make sense? So like, but that would used to be taken to the extreme on the old 2004 rules. But now they realize that planes are so advanced. Like in a light sport airplane now, I can have better avionics than an airliner. So I think they understand that. And they understand like what they thought to be light sport were like very light, not ultra light, but like almost like the Taylor craft.
Sure.
Where now if you look at like the guy across from us has an RV-12. That's the 2-seater. That could be light sport. Autopilot G1000 plan a whole approach for you. That's better than an airliner. So like I think the FAA is aware of that, and especially manufacturing has gotten so much better that they wanted to expand but still limit you in that speed, in that stall speed. But now we're talking about speed. The big one that everyone's happy about is it used to be 120 knots, and now it's 250. A good clarification point on this is it's calibrated airspeed.
Okay.
A lot of airplanes don't have calibrated airspeed. The FAA issued an advisory circular, don't remember the code, that clarifies how to calculate it, and like methods for calculating it if you don't. But usually a POH will have it. So that 250 is huge, right? 120, I mean, I know we're fine with doing that, but a lot of my students I have, they really don't, they're getting aviation to go from point A to point B. And with Sport Pilot was that, like 120 is fine for me, but for most people that is not okay. Yeah. So that really opens up the game there.
Okay. We can talk about some of the other airplane expansions. Like now you can have, it's not just a single reciprocating engine, right?
Yeah.
Multi-engines, different types of propulsion.
Yeah, I think, and obviously it sounds kind of weird because that was the only thing available for, but now I think the biggest thing is, well, one is the electric planes. I think for like the people who fly their business, lawyers that fly across that, I don't think that's going to be anytime in the near future. I think within like 5 years, most flight schools are going to have some sort of fleet of electric planes. I just don't see how you could not. Like the new Pipistrel, they're like, I forget, the Velis, but the electric version. Mm-hmm. You get 45 minutes to an hour flight. That's without the reserve. So, you still have your 30 minutes day VFR reserves. That's enough for pattern work, maneuvers, pretty much anything but the cross country and a private pilot license. That's enough. And the operating costs, no oil changes, the 100 hours, super simple. Even the annual is pretty simple. The operating costs are worth it. That stuff like that's going to become very available. So or people who just want to fly a lot, but don't really want to go anywhere, just like flying, you can buy one of those and get your Sport Pilot and fly it. So I think the electric's going to take off. The small turboprops, there's a company out there. They're kind of pushing this. They're making a trainer that has a very small turboprop in it. And they're like, oh, look, yeah, you're going to have, I have 1,000 hours right now. I've been to CFI and all that. But imagine if all of those were turbine time, that's a golden ticket if you're trying to do the career path. So
yeah, sure.
Obviously the light sport isn't for career path, but it can be a step. Mm-hmm. The turbine is a big one. And then where the logical extension of this is a lot of people, this is kind of a footnote in this whole big MOSAIC news, is rotorcraft and eVTOLs can now be light sport. Yeah. That's pretty big. I think they're just trying to look into the future. They think that those new eVTOLs are going to kind of take over. The ability, like if you live in a city like like LA or New York or something, it can take 2 hours to get across the city. To where if you have a little thing that even it only has like 30 minutes of battery, it's enough to just get from one building to another.
Sure.
So I think and obviously all of those are really highly automated. Like I don't know if you've seen those videos on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
But they're very highly automated. So the idea, like some of these businessmen are not going to want to go get a full-fledged private pilot license. It takes the whole 40 hours of flight training to fly something that is mostly autonomous with minimal pilot input. So that light sport will allow them to get in that faster.
When I did my internship at NASA, our project was actually about eVTOLs. So like we were
really?
trying to design a cockpit for a flight simulator that had like the very minimal amount needed for a basic pilot, considering how much of it was automated.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? It was pretty cool. Okay, so in my mind, like the sport pilot path and the private pilot path are completely distinct paths that a pilot may take depending on where they're located, what they're interested in doing.
Yeah.
Do you now see that staying this way, or do you think it will become more like sport pilot is now a stepping stone to private pilot, and to see more like standard private pilot students getting their sport pilot first, and then later adding on enough endorsements and taking the check ride and becoming a private pilot?
So, I mean, I think it comes down to where exactly you are. Like, let's say maybe it's a career 2.0 kind of situation and you're trying to go as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just doing the private pilot might be a little faster. But like in my situation, kind of the same with your situation too, is I just got it in high school for fun. I could have got the sport pilot license. It would have been cheaper on everyone. I could have been flying as PIC way faster. And you can add on private pilot license after your sport pilot license, and all the flying you've been doing as PIC counts.
Mm-hmm.
So for most people, you get your sport pilot license, go enjoy it. Let's say, you realize like I did, I had my private pilot license for 2, so I was a junior in college. And for 3 years until I decided I want to do a career in this, is I could have had my sport pilot license, it would have been cheaper, and I could have been logging PIC the whole time. And then I'm like, okay, I want to do it. Yes, like at my point in college, I just immediately went and got my commercial, or I already had my instrument. But I could just add on my private. It can just be an add-on check ride. And I should mention that I said I had my instrument. You cannot fly instruments with a light sport, but your hours would count. Like you could get simulated instrument if you had a safety pilot. So
you could log simulated instrument just with a sport pilot?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm not going to say I'm 100% sure on that, but because I know you can log it in many airplanes that aren't IFR certified. So as I said, if your goal is to be flying in BPIC, it might make sense to get a sport pilot. Or let's say you have a great job and you're not sure aviation's for you. Start doing sport pilot, get your PIC, get your license, become PIC way quicker.
Yep.
And then if you want to, you just go right into private pilot training. It's not going to be any different. The check ride, this is kind of shifting a little bit. The check ride for sport pilot is pretty much the same. Mm-hmm. You kind of be tested on all the things. The cost savings come from sport pilot is 1 cross country solo. That's it. And I think 1 solo with 10 takeoff and land. That's it.
And 20 hours of flight with an instructor. With or without an
total,
instructor.
Yeah. Total 20 hours of flight.
Okay.
Yeah. So everything goes down. So the night you don't have to do, the simulated instrument you don't have to do. So it's more of I really just teach the student how to fly and they do a check ride based on that. That's it. I just think it's going back to the original question. I think it's made for people who it's not their career path, but I also think that if it's your career path, but you're not trying to go as fast as possible and you like airplanes, you're not just trying to get a high paying job as an airline pilot, it's a definitely good option that'll allow you to be PIC and go have fun. Because like sometimes when you're just in the flight school environment, it's miserable. So like if you can get a license that allows you to act as PIC and carry 1 passenger, that'll make your the time building way more fun.
Mm-hmm. Another thing you've mentioned a couple of times is about not needing a medical. So I've heard this thrown around that sport pilot is like a good path to go if you're not sure you can pass a medical. What exactly? So you can just fly without a medical certificate?
Yeah. So with the sport pilot, you just need a driver's license. That's it.
Okay.
But there are some limitations there. So I tell people if you're not sure, you should reach out to an instructor, a flight school. To be honest, make sure they know something. If not, do your own research. You can just fly with your license. That is, if you've never been denied or your medicals, you've never been denied a medical or you've never had your medical revoked. So if you're taking medicine, you're not sure about it, don't go sit for a medical. Go talk to someone who knows what they're talking about and then have it figured out. And then the third caveat they kind of say is, or if you have any other condition that might be hazardous to flight. But most people, the standard thing is if you're not sure if you have some medical condition, you're not sure. The issue is if you're not sure and you just go sign up to get a medical exam, you sit for a medical and it gets denied, that kind of is with you for the rest of your life. You'll have that denied medical. So what you should do is not even start. If you're even unsure, but you want to start flight training, go to the sport pilot route and maybe don't schedule a medical. You can have a conversation with an AME though. Okay. They're open to that. It's just saying, hey, I have this, and this medical history. is it even possible for me to get a medical? Do you think I'll pass? Like, can I get some input maybe from a few AMEs, but definitely don't sit for a medical if you think. So what I used to tell people is just have that conversation. But now it's like, you can have that conversation, but there is a path for you to start flying. And it's always been there, but it's been limiting, but now it's not limiting. So I think a lot of people who maybe have a few medical conditions that they're completely safe to fly, but they wouldn't pass the standard medical. Such as like a lot of mental health things, right? Like people who are completely fine, but maybe had a history somewhere, that's not an issue anymore. If they just want to fly for fun, they can just, if they know the medical is going to be an issue, they don't even have to start. They just never sit for one.
What if you get denied a medical, but then you fix whatever it was and you come back and
you would have to get a medical issued to you again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a denied medical goes away when once you're issued.
But then at that point, if you've gone through it, you just have the medical. So you might as well you might as well keep the medical. You could transition to a basic med. Not quite. Basic med, I think you can never have been denied.
Oh.
But yeah, the name of the game here is denied a medical is never. Even if you have a medical, but you think you might get denied the next one, go ahead and sign up for that basic med and keep on flying if you're safe to fly and have conversation with an AME.
Sure.
But the name of the game here is don't get denied a medical. I mean, if there's something that you are not fit to fly, like you're going to pass out, obviously don't fly. But the name of the game is you want to, avoid the paperwork and hassle of having a medical denied, especially if you know you're fit to fly, but it might be some like hiccup, some medication or something.
Why do you think the FAA is making this change? So they have the whole medical system, which is pretty strict, like you're saying, a denial is a big deal. But then they have this other route that now is getting expanded privileges, like almost to the point of private pilot.
Yeah.
That just doesn't require this medical at all.
Yeah.
Are they admitting that the medical system is not as important as they previously thought?
I think they're not admitting that's not important. But here's the thing. When I hop on my Delta flight, I don't know the pilot. I can't even see the pilot. I don't know the airplane. That strict regulation kind of keeps us safe. When I'm flying with you or a friend has a sport pilot license, you do know them. Like there's some sort of kind of consent of what you're doing there. Sure. So I think the FAA realizes that strict level that we hold airline pilots to with modern equipment and modern airplanes does not need to be applied to people flying these small GA airplanes. Like the amount of damage a 737 can do is a lot different than what I can do in the tailcraft. So I think the basic principle, at least when it comes to the medicals, is realizing that it is strict. Like the mental health thing is a tough debate because it's there for a reason, but it's also kind of crazy. Like how intense, like if you've even seen a therapist once, this whole big thing. Yeah. So I think it's a way around it for, okay, if you've had that history and maybe you don't want to be an airline pilot, you just want to fly for fun, you can just not even have to participate in that system.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Let's talk a little bit about, so we talked about kind of what is the sport pilot certificate, what you can do with it. Now, what are the expanded things you can do? What about the aircraft? So what exactly is the light sports aircraft? I wasn't even sure about this when I was doing research yesterday.
It's unclear. It used to be, it was like a type certificated thing, right? It would be a light sport type certificated airplane. The big change here is for light sport eligible aircraft, they're getting rid of type certificates. So that, for people who know or maybe know about airplane production, that is most of the cost of a new airplane. It's why, as I said, Piper, we used to have all these cool planes. We don't have those anymore. Cessna, we don't have those anymore. We pretty much don't have any. Experimental is the only way, right? You're getting new cool airplanes. For the factory to build an airplane, the type certificate is just so much investment and regulation. It pretty much strangles America when it comes to American manufacturers trying to make airplanes. How it changes airplanes now is the whole type certificate system for light sport eligible planes is gone. All that, basically, if a manufacturer follows industry standard procedures, and that's just what the FAA said. I'm assuming there's a booklet that describes what they are, or there's I don't know exactly what that means. Not airplane manufacturers. But if they follow the industry specific standards, it counts. And it meets all the, under 250 knots, stall speed, 4 seats, all that stuff is going to be light sport eligible. And that's going to, I'm hoping it's a little annoying because we just bought a new airplane, but I'm hoping within 5 years, we're going to start seeing new airplanes hit the market. In Eastern Europe, these are really popular. I don't know the rules over there. I don't know if they're flying them over there or they're building them, and I don't know where they're selling them. but like JMB Aircraft is one of them. They're making these small composite airplanes, small reciprocating engine, but retractable gear, constant speed prop. We're going 200 miles an hour. And these just like regulatory wise, they had a market in the US, but they fell in this weird gray area where like people would want to fly them under light sport, but you can't. And then if you have a private pilot, it's just weird gray area. I think hopefully we can get to see some American manufacturing of cool stuff like that, or even just importing those. But just basically the accessibility of general aviation as a viable travel tool now kind of extends to light sport pilots.
So another thing I was not aware of until yesterday, a sport pilot is not only restricted to light sport aircraft. They can also fly other aircraft.
So
right?
yeah, so that was unclear for me for the longest time when people would approach me as an instructor. But yes, you can fly. I'll always say with the new rule. The old rule, I'm not even sure. The new rule is anything that meets the requirements, you can fly. So like our plane, we are not going to go register it as a light sport airplane. Some people, you could do that in the past. We're not going to do that. It's going to stay exactly how it is, just normal aircraft category registration. But because it meets the requirements, we could have a light sport rent and fly our plane. The only limitation he would have is, well, not the only one. One of the main ones is the plane has 4 seats. He can only fill one of them, right? He can only, or 2 of them. He can only have a passenger and him. And then other limitations are dictated to what he has. It's very endorsement based. You get light sport, you can never see a tower at airport. I've never flown at night, all that. You used to not be able to fly at night at all. Now you can fly at night via endorsement. Tower airports, same thing, via endorsement. So it really depends on the pilot knowing what they can and can't do. But it does open up the ability for sport pilots to rent a lot of airplanes, or even own, but like a lot of flight schools just have standard airworthiness airplanes that sport pilots can now rent and use.
Can you instruct in any type of
that? I'm not sure about. I'm pretty sure, yes. I've seen flight schools that have light sport airplanes. That is like a weird, I know this, the new rule. The biggest one I care about, to be honest, is the commercial uses of airplanes that aren't passenger carrying. We have firefighting, agriculture, banner towing. These are things that you see. I mean, firefighting agriculture with the air tractor, there's a good company there making it. They get real planes. Banner towing, like I've had a few opportunities, like job opportunities pop up, but the safety of banner towing to me seems low. Because like obviously we have a tail aircraft and we fly it, but we keep it up light, we don't push it that hard. These Super Cubs, cowling off, up like Massey Air Wrench had 2 crashes. They're always beat up. They're pushing the engines hard. But the issue is because it's not easy to make new planes anymore. So there's no modern plane that can do that mission very well.
Right.
So like that's something where a new company could make a modern plane that is probably a lot better performance, a lot safer to do banner towing with, but it's still going to be airplanes aren't a high profit business. So we don't have the money to just be dropping tons of money on a brand new airplane. But I think with these new, no type certificate, aircraft manufacturing should decrease in cost. So like I think that is what most people are excited for. I do believe instruction is possible. We'll have to double check.
Yeah. So that is really interesting to me that they're allowing some commercial activity. Like you said, I guess it's the one where it's just one pilot.
The biggest thing, like a lot of people say, the FAA doesn't really care if you kill yourself in an airplane. In an airplane.
Sure.
They really care if you hurt other people. Yeah. Right. So that's the whole thought behind this, and kind of touching back. I don't know if we talked about it. Is that you can have a plane with 4 seats, but you can only have 1 passenger. And a lot of people like kind of are puzzled at that, but it makes sense, right? Like our tail aircraft, or we fly a Cessna 150. They're very limiting airplanes. Like to be honest, think about all the fun flying most people do. It's usually you and 1 person.
Yeah.
Like same with other kids, whatever. It's usually one person. Sometimes more, but most of the time it's you and another person. But like with the tail aircraft, for example, you and 1 person, it's 400 pounds, full fuel. Depending on the person, you have maybe 60, 50 pounds of bags to bring. That can be enough depending. But like think about the 170, right? 2 people, there's 400 extra pounds. You can bring a cooler full of stuff. Yeah. You can bring everything else you need for a vacation. It suddenly becomes a very viable travel thing. Where on the small planes, it's more of a day trip thing. So I think that people might see that and be, oh, I wish we could carry 4 people. I'm like, yes, if you really want to carry that many people, private pilot might be your path. But if it's just you and like your wife or something, the ability to do that, but you still have the useful load of being able to carry 4 passengers. You can't put 4 humans in there, but you could bring coolers, your dogs, bags, clothes, camping supply. Like think about like the average Oshkosh person.
Yeah.
Like they're bringing like hundreds of pounds of stuff. If you survive for a week out of only stuff you get back in your airplane, that's kind of what this market, like that's how I see that would be really awesome for a sport pilot to have that ability to do.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to fly a light sport aircraft under these new like commercial things that are allowed, like banner towing, the pilot has to have more than a sport pilot. They still have to have commercial
the
rating,
pilot's
right?
still going to have his commercial rating, right?
Okay,
He's
so
making
that's
money.
unchanged.
Yes,
This is just
but
for the...
it's for the aircraft.
Got
the
it.
light
Okay.
sport aircraft can now be used for commercial activities that
I
are
see.
non-passenger carrying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think this is a good time to like get into like our specific situation as flight school owners.
Yeah.
So I'll give a quick background. So we started Olinde Aerospace 2 years ago with a third brother. We started off with a two-seat Taylor craft, and then we recently purchased a Cessna 170, and it's a four-seater. And we focus on tailwheel training. So we do tailwheel endorsements, obviously, but we also do private pilot, commercial ratings, biannual flight reviews. And the idea is that tailwheels are cool, but there's an argument to be made that flying a tailwheel makes you a better pilot in general. It's easy to go from tailwheel to nose wheel, not so easy to go the other way around.
Yeah.
And so owning a flight school, how is this rule going to affect us?
Yeah, it's going to be huge because I said, like, every flight instructor has their niche. I think the whole business started because my niche became something like an average flight instructor works for a school and just, kind of pilot mill, right? And I always tell flight instructors, you got to find your niche. My niche was somehow it became like middle-aged guys who will never touch the controls to an airliner. That is not their goal. They have very successful businesses. They want to learn how to fly. Mostly because they like a YouTube, like the Flying Cowboys.
Yep.
Usually they want to fly bush planes. That's just where the market's at. Obviously people are charging $500,000 for bush planes. The market's there right now. People want to learn how to do that. They see like the Trent Palmer videos, and they really want to learn how to do that. So what the standard pathway was they go to this big box flight school, do the pilot mill program. They don't really know how to fly that well. They know how to fly. You're taught to fly like a commercial pilot. That's not transferable. I mean, some of it is, but I said simulated short field and simulated soft field only takes you so far. So when I started instructing, I just would notice I worked for a standard flight school, but I also worked for a flying club. And I was noticing a lot of these people I was flying with have flown at these big flight schools. And effectively, they already have their private, but they're going for more instruction because they want to learn how to like actually fly a GA aircraft, not just fly a 172 like it's a 737. So I would do it, and then we got our tailwheel plane. And I started doing tailwheel endorsement. And it's the same exact thing. All these people would leave their flight school, they get their private pilot license from the big box flight school, and then come to me wanting to learn how to like actually fly tailwheel, and basically get the skills to become a pilot that they want to be, that they started flying because. So now we kind of had this idea to buy the 170 is, okay, well, what if they can just start directly at the thing they want to do?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? They can start day one learning tailwheel skills, learning short field skills, right? I put them in the graphs day one, who cares? Learning those skills day one to become, if they want to do bush flying, or even not even bush flying, but they want to do tailwheel flying, off airport flying, just outside the box flying. That's something that if you're getting ready to be an airline pilot, doesn't concern you. And where light sport fits in for us is, as I said, a lot of these people will never touch airlines. They don't even want to get their instrument ready. They just want to go have fun on airplanes. 3 hours of instrument training and all the multiple cross-country requirements and all that are good, but as I said, light sport in those planes, it's a way they can get PIC in the planes they want to fly way quicker.
Yeah.
They're not spending all this time and money doing something that doesn't interest them and they don't want to do.
Yeah, not to mention, I heard this stat so on average in the US, they said flight schools have an 80% dropout rate.
Yes. Right now, I teach 5 dropouts, and I've, in the past 2 months, had a shockingly good side business of doing even ground instruction for pilots at one of the big flight schools near us because you're just a number. There's no individuals in there where, especially with the light sport, right? The cost is lower. Everything's a little lower. A little more laid back too. And that's not even the light sport, it's just Part 61.
Yeah.
But it allows very unique curriculum. If I have a student, like I have a student right now, he's building a Bearcat.
Bearcat. Okay.
Bearhawk. There we go. The Bearhawk, 6-seater, but right off airport plane, going and doing perfectly stabilized 3-mile final approaches is good to learn maybe, but it's not going to get him where he wants to be. So it's better for him at the beginning, seeing proper pitch and power, proper energy management. You know, we're going to bring that plane in right at proper approach speed, not a knot more, full flaps. We're going to land, and we're going to get comfortable landing well within 1,000 feet, 500 feet, whatever it is. Get comfortable with landing in grass. Get comfortable with an airport that has 50-foot trees on both sides. Things like that, where a normal flight school, either you can't do that, they won't let you do that, or you don't have access to planes that can do that. So I think there's kind of a market for that people are missing. Big flight schools, it's just, that's an inefficiency. And when profit is the bottom line, you don't need to waste time teaching your private pilot students real short field and soft field skills, because they're not really tested on the exam. You're allowed to do simulated, and the examiner doesn't really care.
Yeah, which is kind of ridiculous, because I was in the same system. I went to a big flight school, never did a real grass landing, but then I did some research, and we're here in Florida. There are hundreds and hundreds of grass runways in Florida.
Yeah, I think my biggest like awakening, because I never did much. Like in private pilot at Valkyria, we'd go and hit the grass every now and then. It's fun, but it's a long grass runway. But I never done it. And then all right, you're taught. So I passed my parapilot check, right? I'm checked out to fly and technically do short and soft field operations. The issue is, in training, we separate them. Short field, soft field.
Yeah.
In real life, they're almost never separated.
Right.
Besides a few, like that one big one, triple tree, we have Indian Town. Mostly you're getting 2,000-foot grass strip with trees on the other end. So there are certain things you need to learn how to do, and you don't learn by simulating. You have to do it with an instructor who knows that they can do it safely and then show you how to do it. My first kind of awakening to that was when I went to Peach State. Have you ever been there?
No.
South of Atlanta. Really awesome. Incline, a 13-degree incline on a hill, grass runway. Trees on either end. They've cut a hole through them, so you're under the trees flying through the approach. Super fun. We just did it in the Club 172, but super fun. And I'm really grateful. It was the Georgia Tech Flying Club that I was able to do it, because they had very lax rules, because they trained good pilots and they would allow us to do stuff like that. Where these big flight schools are not going to allow you. If you look into renters contracts, that's not allowed. They're just, to them, because profit to the bottom dollar, they're not willing to put up with that risk. But some risk has to be taken, in my opinion, to teach pilots. And circling all the way back to light sport, I think light sport is an option that might make the costs of doing this stuff cheaper.
Yes, I think that, but I also do think that the light sport will add in additional revenue, because I personally know many people who come to me and are very interested in flying, but are not able to commit, because it takes months to do it for a normal person, to get their PPL, and they know it's going to cost at least $8,000 to $10,000, and that's a lot to commit to. But if you can say, okay, I can get you the sport pilot license in a month or two, and we can do it for $5,000. That's still a lot of money, but that's a lot less of a commitment. I think we'll have a lot more people coming in who are willing to try it out, and then therefore we'll have more revenue in order to take these kind of risks.
And with the expanded MOSAIC now, the issue is sport pilot didn't appeal. You could always done that, right? It was always 20 hours. It was always no medical.
That is true.
It didn't appeal to people, though, because it was so limiting.
Sure.
So people were like, oh, that's awesome, but like, oh, it's cheaper, I don't need a medical, but like I can't really do anything with it. Now it's like, oh, I can go get this light sport, and then I can show them the plane that they could rent that can carry 900 pounds of baggage. It can do all this, have all this capability. Suddenly it becomes like, oh, that's something I can actually use. Like that can fulfill something in my life, where before, like that's always been the case, but before that's the issue. Like cool, but it's kind of a toy, to where now with these updated regulations, light sport aircraft can really be a tool, which was not how they originally were seen to be.
Does a Tailorcraft fit the definition of light sport prior to
that's actually, when I was helping another student we had who bought a Tailorcraft, he was trying to sell it, now he's not, I don't know. But we saw one guy, and the reason he bought it was his son could not qualify for a medical. Fit to fly, but I forgot what it was. Something couldn't qualify. So he needed a light sport eligible plane. So he was stuck in a very limited market. I love the Tailorcraft, but it's not great if you want to go really far and bring all your bags with you.
Yeah.
So it depends what you want. So, but if, like, for us, we chose Tailorcraft because it's fun and we like flying. Some people like flying, but a lot of people want to get somewhere. So like for some guy like that, he's the prime target. Even if he has some money around, he can now go from basically his options were like a Taylor craft, something maybe a little faster. Now he can get these new like it's gonna kill you. I can't remember these new composite airplanes. He can go 200 miles an hour, 200 up to 250.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, long distance, carry passenger, tons of bags, and really that's like the niche market for this.
So when does this all begin? I know it was announced at Oshkosh this year in 2025.
Yeah.
So are we good
for pilots? It's for the stuff for pilots is I think they said 90 days after it enters the Federal Register, something like that.
Okay.
I think it's roughly around October.
All right.
And then it'll be a year for the certification stuff. But the certification stuff is awesome, and I think will actually have long-term the biggest impact.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, for like the average pilot, I don't think it's going to affect us much right now. It's going to take some time for the industry. The pilot regulations is going to completely overhaul what we thought general aviation was. I really believe that. As well as we haven't mentioned yet, there is, I don't know it all because I'm not a mechanic. One day maybe. But there is some new mechanic things involved that allow owner maintenance to be expanded. Mechanics can do more. It should make the costs cheaper as well for owning planes that are light sport eligible.
So you said, starting in October is when the pilot part of it comes into
sometime. It's not October 1st. It's sometime in October. Yeah.
Yeah. So at Olinde Aerospace, what have you been thinking about? Like, how should we prepare for that day?
Yeah, basically, I want to prepare for that day I want kind of to have a solid curriculum down as well as a partnership with the DPE, which I have a few that I know that's willing to do a sport pilot certificate. And it starts with a conversation from the school sitting down with the DPE and say, what do you look for in a sport pilot, right? Because the sport pilot, the goal here is they want to fly badly, right? And maybe there's something, but now they can. So they really want to get that license as quick as possible, and they want to be PIC, which is great. But we want them to be properly trained. So just working with the DP, seeing what they want out of a sport pilot check ride, because I know very limited CFIs who ever endorsed a sport pilot check ride. I said you can look at the ACS, or they use PTS. It's still old.
Okay.
But it's roughly the same as the private pilot, but still definitely get a relationship with an examiner who is very familiar and fair when it comes to the sport pilot check ride, as well as just getting the word out there. That people how many stories have you heard of like usually older people who like dream of being pilots? I can never do that. Like I have bad eyes. That's not been a thing for so long. But people still think that to the day. I wear glasses. I have contacts. Pretty aggressive prescription. It's fine. Pass every medical. But people don't understand that. So I think the biggest thing will be educating the public who isn't pilots. All pilots who are in the know about MOSAIC. It's on every AOPA email. It's on every YouTube. Yep. The real thing comes from educating the non-flying public that, hey, look at this new option for you. Mm-hmm. Maybe you've dreamed about this for so long, but you've had something not allowing you to fly. It's now possible. I think that's really where it's going to come, because as I said, pilots know about it and we can make that decision, but non-pilots who don't know about it, that's kind of where I see us going.
As an instructor, are you good to start training sport pilots, or do you need another endorsement or anything?
Yeah, so I'm good to start training sports pilots, I believe. Once again, might be something there, but I do know there is a sport pilot instructor.
Okay.
Which just requires less. Like they don't have. I don't believe I'm not one. I don't believe they have the instrument requirements or anything. But there is a sport pilot instructor ability. There's actually a girl on Instagram. I can't remember her name. Maybe Pilot Katie. I don't know. But there's a girl on Instagram who just look up like sport pilot instructor. You'll find her. She goes through it in very high detail because she did that, and I think she started instructing. And her total investment was under $30,000 for her pilot training.
Get to the instructor.
Yeah, so for a normal pilot to get all the way to instructor, your total investment's like a master's degree, $50,000 to $70,000. So we're gonna cut that in half, right? That's
that's big.
If you love flying and maybe you want to teach someone flying. I mean, sport pilots, you could even do it as a career path. You could not, but let's say you're just a sport pilot and maybe you want to teach some people. I think you can do that. I said I'm not sure. I don't really know too much about the sport pilot instructor, but yes, it's a cheaper way for some people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know you brought some notes. Is there any other notes that we can get to?
One thing
talk about
for the chronically online people, including me,
okay,
is there's been a lot of videos. I mean, GA, there's crash all the time. Like we're making it a lot safer, and most of them are non-fatal, which is great. We are making aviation safer, but every time there's a crash, scroll up and look at the Instagram comments. There's fights, and a lot of people, oh look, MOSAIC in action, MOSAIC in action. A lot of people think it's going to make aviation more dangerous. not the general consensus, go to any air show. The pilots, everyone loves this. All right, it's great. We're going to spread aviation and the plane's going to get cheaper, training's going to get cheaper. But some people think the level of training is going to get worse and flying's going to get more dangerous. And I kind of have a few points on this. One, people see those lower hour minimums and they're like, are you kidding me? We're going to have 20-hour pilots flying around as PIC. That's insane. And what I kind of say is we shouldn't like come down on the pilots. They're going to take whatever their instructor gives them. So like it's instructors' jobs to make sure you're training. Yeah, I tell people if they come for certain licenses, like private pilot says 40, listen, it's probably not going to take 40 for you. It might take 60, whatever it takes. It's that honest thing where, hey, you're doing a sport pilot because you can't get a medical or you don't want to get a medical and you're interested in sport pilot. But like, hey, the 20 hours might become 40 very, very quickly if you need it. So I think that comes on, we need to come down on instructors, say, hey, like put some weight behind your signature. Don't just sign off anything. Like my general thing is, would I trust my family to fly with the person I'm signing this endorsement? If not, don't give them the endorsement. And then a lot of people are saying, or the medical thing, and kind of in my couple years of experience of flight instructing is the people who really want to fly are the ones who are going for sport pilot license. So like, oh, we need, there's just random people who are going to, no. Like your average guy who just dreams of flying, he wants to get in the bush flying, he wants to do the real flying, like landing off airport, and he's had some medical thing and he hasn't been able to for 10 years. And now he finally can because of this. He's going to be so dialed in on the training because he's so excited about it.
Sure.
That I'm not going to say he's better, but like there's the standard kind of pilot mill, private pilot student, that sport pilot guy is going to know a lot more because in his training, he was just dialed in on it. He was doing all the stuff he wanted to do. He's doing short field landing, soft field landing, short soft field landing. He's really dialed in on the training because he wants to be there. Because it's not a career, it can be a career path, but for most people, it's not a career path. It's a passion thing. So I really don't foresee sport pilots being dangerous. If anything, I'd say the average sport pilot, after this goes for a while, it's probably on par or even a little better than the average private pilot, because the average private pilot nowadays, the word average here is carrying some weight because just so many people go and get it because they want to get that high-paying airline job, is that the skills aren't there, right? Most schools, I'm not hating or anything, but they teach the ACS and they keep the students moving. That's their job. They're there to become an airline pilot. Or sport pilot, he's not there to do anything. He's there because he wants to fly a plane kind of outside of the box. So I think I don't foresee that being an issue. I actually foresee a much more improved aviation safety because you're gonna have a lot of people there who want to be there. Aircraft manufacturers with small aircraft are gonna have a lot more ability to try new things because not everything is gonna have to be type certificated. You can't add something and have to get a new type certificate. They can just do it if they follow proper standards. So I think it's going to make aviation, I'm not going to say safe or anything. I think there's going to be a negative impact. And I think the positive impact, economic and just accessibility to everyone, is way outweighs any negative.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming on. That was fun.
Nice.
Thank you for listening to The Wing Wag. If you liked this episode, please consider subscribing. And if you're out flying today, make sure to give somebody a wing wag.